Hello there everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. and today we're gonna have that chapter video, and this is the scariest disappearances that are still a mystery. We probably will know where most of these are due to the fact that we've watched a lot of true crime videos, so we know a lot about these disappearances. But we're gonna get right into these. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit subscribe button, comment thing down below. Let's go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this video we're gonna do something new, something a little bit different. And that is an iceberg video, specifically about bizarre or disturbing disappearances. I came across this one by Reddit user Old Thrace, and it really caught my eye and kind of inspired me, so shouts out to that person. I had my own list of really strange and creepy disappearances that I wanted to talk about, so why not do it in iceberg form? Some of them you may have heard of, some of them you definitely won't have heard of. This video will probably be a little bit longer, so you know what, let's just dive straight in. Let's give it a go.
What do you got now,
So
Mike?
to begin with Tier 1, I want to stick with disappearances that are weird, but, likely explainable. These are mysteries that are a little bit older for the most part, as in, probably wouldn't be a mystery if it happened today, and a lot of them have been covered pretty well, so we won't get too much into it. You probably already know, all about these ones, but as we go down the tiers, things get, frankly, more terrifying. Amelia Earhart. So, on Tier 1, we have Amelia.
Okay, he's not from thing, right? I have never heard anyone call her Earhart. I have heard of Amelia Earhart. I have never heard it called Amelia Earhart. Now, I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad that he said it that way. I've just never heard anyone call her Earhart. Maybe you all have. Maybe it's not. Maybe I've just never heard anyone say. Is that a call? Do people call her Earhart? I've never heard anyone call her that.
Amelia Earhart's disappearance, which you're all probably pretty familiar with or have heard of at the very least.
Yeah.
After receiving a real Irish welcome, I took a Paramount plane to London and there received a real English welcome.
In 1937, pilot Amelia Earhart took off from Miami on June 1st, 1937. Took off with her navigator Fred Noonan, and she was aiming to be the first woman to circumnavigate the globe. And it was while over the Pacific Ocean on her last leg of the journey that the pair vanished. The last reports from the two was that they were having radio problems, and then they vanished near Howland Island. A United States Coast Guard ship was in that area there to provide support, but the last they heard was that they were having communication difficulties, the radios were not working properly, that fuel was running low, and then they were gone. They likely ran out of fuel and are at the bottom of the ocean. Some think her and Fred landed on an island, but on a completely deserted one with no water. There's an island that's been theorized they may have landed on, but that island was actually searched really soon after they lost communications and when the search for the pair began. Nothing was found there, all the way back then. Madeleine McCann. Madeleine McCann, then probably the most famous disappearance in, recent times. In 2007, 3-year-old Madeleine disappeared from her bed while on holiday in Portugal. Her parents went out...
Oh, I know this one. This is the one that annoyed me. This one annoyed me when I watched a documentary thing on it. Because this is the one where the parents just left the children in the house to go out drinking. They would check on them after a while, but they came out, they went down to a little bar down there to start drink, to go for drinks and that, and the children were sleeping by themselves in the apartment. And then someone went to go check, and they opened the door, they didn't really look in, they didn't see all our chaos, so they just closed back the door, they waited, it turned out the child was already gone by that point. There was so much I could have been done to make this search a little bit less, maybe done earlier.
For dinner, they left her alone in the holiday apartment. They returned home at 10 p.m. She was gone girl to this day. There were sightings of mysterious people around then, like someone carrying a child, though that could have been a misidentification. and her parents, Kate and Jerry, came under suspicion like maybe they did something. But I mean, yeah, the search was huge, and to this day, it remains a mystery.
How do you deal with the fact that more and more people seem to be pointing the finger at you, saying the way you behave is not the way people would normally behave?
I couldn't imagine. Well, obviously the parents are suspect, but I also couldn't imagine being in a situation. Your child goes missing. Maybe he's kidnapped. Maybe got taken. Most likely got taken. No, she wandered off. Child gets kidnapped. And you're accused of something happened to it, and they don't really focus on anything else because they think it's you. Like, that would piss me off to such a degree. I could imagine the anger that would be going through my mind. Like, my child could be found if you stop fucking paying attention to me and focused on actually trying to figure out what happened.
Behave if their child is abducted, and they seem to imply that you might have something to do with it.
The facts are out there. We were dining very close to the children, and we were checking on them very, very regularly. You know, we are very responsible parents, and we love our children so much, and I think it's only a very few people that are actually criticising us.
Now, there were some updates to the whole Madeleine McCann thing, even recently enough in 2020, 13 years after she mysteriously vanished. German police identified a person of interest, Christian Bruckner, a German fella. He was a convicted sex offender who was believed to have been living in a trailer near where Madeleine disappeared. He still says he's innocent, but I mean, you know, you would say that. And a dam near where she vanished is still being searched even now, even in 2023 when this video is coming out, still being searched, that likely.
Is there something about him that made you go, he's the guy? Or that he might be the guy? Or was it just that he was a offender living in a trailer? Like, is that what caught the attention that made you go, oh, we should look at him? Or was it something he did? Something he said? Like, what got your attention when it comes to him? That's my curiosity.
She was killed and her body was thrown in the dam. Roanoke Colony. And finally on tier 1, yeah, I'm easing you in, folks. These are all pretty well-known disappearances, like this one, which is the Roanoke Colony disappearance. Again, like a pretty famous one from history, I'm sure you've all heard about it. The Roanoke Colony was the first permanent English settlement in...
Oh, this is when just a whole fucking island disappeared. This is when everyone who was on an island just fucking gone without a trace. I was talking my language here. I was able to go without swearing on the last one. I guess I can't here. This one where just everyone on the island just disappeared. Gone. Vanished without a trace. To this day, no one knows what happened to them.
North America. It was in North Carolina. There were about 120 colonists living there, surviving there. But then, in 1590, the whole colony vanished. The fate of those colonists still, you know, remains a mystery. Kind of. On one of the wooden walls of the colony, the word Croatoan was found carved there. Which is like, ooh, creepy. What does Croatoan mean? Like a neighboring island. That was Croatoan Island. Now it's called Hatteras Island. As in, like, the colonists probably abandoned Roanoke, went to live with the natives who lived on that island, and were either, like, killed by them, or just went to live with them, which wasn't a terribly actually uncommon thing for colonists to do back then, because the natives' lifestyle was pretty good. Either way, though, it's like a fun mystery, but I guess I kind of use mystery in like a loose term. Alright, so now for tier 2, disturbing disappearances, and this is when things start to get pretty creepy. Louis le Prince. First of all, let me start with an older disappearance. I think this is like the only old one I have left on the list, and this is the mysterious disappearance of Louis le Prince. He was considered the father of cinematography and the first person to shoot moving images back in the day. Like 150 years ago, it's quite a few days ago. It was in 1890, however, that Louis le Prince disappeared while aboard a train going from Dijon to Paris. He was getting ready to travel to America to unveil his invention, but he never made it. He did get on the train. His brother in Dijon saw him board the train, but he never got off the train. Or he never got off the train in Paris, at the very least, where his friends were waiting for them at the train station. There was a mega search, but Louis...
Oh, I remember this guy. Okay, this was the guy. So yeah, this is the guy who went missing as he was going to reveal his photography thing, but someone else did it instead. For some reason, my brain's a blank. I'm studying history right now, and I completely forget the name of the person who actually like revealed it for the first time and gets credit. I don't know if they still get credit to create an invention. I think his situation being so known now probably gives the attention to him. But there was someone else who was getting credit for it. Just for some reason, can't remember the name. It's probably a really famous name too. That when someone comments, I'm gonna be like, yes, that's who it is. Of course, that's who it is. But your stupid brain can't figure it out.
We just never materialized, ever. Some say, you know, on the train he was forced off and then murdered, either due to a familial dispute, due to money, or the big conspiracy theory about Louis the Prince is that good old Thomas Edison, that old son.
That's the name. That's the fucking name I forgot. Thomas Edison. That's the name I forgot. Thank you, Mike.
Which he had him killed due to him filing a patent about moving images, because, you know, Big Eddie just wanted to be the first to claim everything. William Tyrrell. Now we're going to be sticking with modern ones, folks, and the next up is the really weird disappearance of William Tyrrell. William was a 3-year-old boy who disappeared from his grandmother's house in Kendal, a town near the southeast coast of Australia, just a few hours north of Sydney. Okay. William was a foster child, and he was there playing with his sister in the front yard, the backyard of his foster grandmother's house. They were being watched like the whole time by foster mother. Seemed to be having a great time. They were playing hide and seek. Then at one point his foster mother, she went in to make a cup of tea. When she turned around, he was gone. This picture was taken just a few short minutes before he disappeared. Searches were done everywhere, including in the forest, which was literally right across the road, but nothing.
He was here 5 minutes ago, I said, well, where's he gone? I can't find him. So I then...
This is going to be one of those cases where the family's going to be like, hey, you know definitely something more that's going on here. There is no way that that's actually happened, because that's not believable. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm just saying, if I was an officer or detective, I would not be able to believe this right off the bat either. Because it sounds insane to think that you turned around to go make tea for a few seconds, turned back around, kid's gone. There's no way.
I won't run for the purposes.
Yeah,
right?
we'll have to keep up.
But I started to go down here. I was calling his name. I did 90 minutes in this area.
Yeah, I understand that.
I'm not going to take you through the 90 minutes, but I went down, went underneath their house, went around their house.
Did you notice anyone else around?
Not straight away. Not straight away. They're away. I didn't even look up there. There didn't seem to be anyone else coming out around this area.
It was kind of believed initially that he may have been snatched off the streets by like a sex offender who was just opportunistically saw a child and took them. All sex offenders in the area though were investigated, and none brought up anything. A reward of $1 million Australian dollars was offered, but nothing was ever found. The disappearance of William Tyrrell has always been a really scary one. In fact, when I first read about it years and years ago, it always really bothered me. I think I'm not a parent, but it's like what you can imagine a parent's worst nightmare is. But then, even more recently, in the summer of 2023, William Tyrrell's foster mother, who's kind of always looked at, squintily, because, I talk about true crime all the time, and it's always like the last person to see him.
One of Australia's most baffling cases, the disappearance of 3-year-old William Tyrrell. Detectives now...
Yeah. Yep. That sounds right. Like I said, if I was detectives, I couldn't cross that bridge. I couldn't cross the mother out. I was said I wouldn't have believed them, but then maybe they probably did for a while, but then they couldn't fully cross her out because this story sounds insane, right? Like, think about it. You're told, hey, we let she turned around to make a tea. It took her like 30 seconds. She turned around, the kid's gone. You're not going to believe that, are you? You're going to think that's sketchy. And you're not going to be able to fully not cross. Like, you're not going to be able to say, oh, she's clearly innocent. You couldn't.
Now believe there's enough evidence to charge the toddler's foster mother over his disappearance.
Well, the police recommended charging her with perverting the course of justice and interfering with a corpse. The authorities in Australia, they seem to think that William may have been killed in the house accidentally, and then she went and hid the body. But of course, she's denying it, and who really knows what happened to him? It's a really scary one. Michaela Bali. Michaela Bali was a 16-year-old Canadian. She disappeared in Canada in 2016, and
oh, okay, I know this one.
her disappearance is really strange. She was living in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and on April 12th, 2016, she went to school. Her grandmother gave her a ride to the school as normal, but once she arrived at the school, she went to her locker, left some books in there, and then walked straight out of the school. She walked into town, attempted to pawn a ring, but got nothing for it, then went to the bank, took out $55, and then went to get a coffee. In the coffee shop, she was seen dismantling her phone and then putting it back together, and she stayed there for quite a bit. Then she walked out.
Wait, she destroyed her phone, then put it back together? What was the point of... Why? Why would you destroy your phone, then put it back? What reason would you have to do that? That's just weird.
Out of the coffee shop, immediately walked right back into the coffee shop, and went to use another door. Why? She walked around the block a few times, then went back into the coffee shop once again, which is like a Tim Hortons. In there, she walked over to an elderly woman to ask about help for renting a room. This elderly woman said no. She then walked to a bus station, asked about a ticket to Regina. Then she went back to school, spoke to two of her friends about going to Regina. Like, what she was up to that day is really bizarre. She was going in circles like the entire day. Then she again left the school, went to another restaurant for lunch, and then she disappeared. Throughout the day, she was texting her friends saying she had some problems, but she had figured it out, she had sorted it out, and she's never been seen again. On April 13th, the day...
That is insane. That is so bizarre. I don't even know what to make of whatever problem she had. Clearly messing her up. She clearly paranoid. Paranoid as all hell for me. I don't know what's caused her to be so paranoid, but she was paranoid.
After she was last seen, her phone was turned off at 6:50 a.m., never turned on again, and she never used her bank account again. Nothing. Something, maybe she ran away, right? That she was talking about the going to Regina as like a red herring to lead people in that direction because she knew people would come looking for her. But if she ran away, she never touched her bank account again. Others think she was trafficked, that Michaela met somebody online who took her away. It's a really weird one. And speaking of really weird, now let's move on to tier 3. Ryan Stuka. 20-year-old Ryan Stuka was last seen leaving a house party in February 2018. This was in Sun Peaks, Canada, like a mountain resort type deal. He'd been there for about 2 months, snowboarding. Now this is going to sound really weird, but it's near the city of Kamloops, which is British Columbia. And, I was looking at this one's for, and there's a startling number of disappearances in that area. There's even something called the Kamloops Triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle. There have been some really strange events in that part of the world. Really weird stuff, probably a subject for a future video, but let's talk about Ryan. He was last seen leaving a party at 2 a.m. on Saturday, February 18th, and he was making the 5-minute walk to his home. He did not make it, and he never showed up for work the following day. He never used his phone again, no, nothing. During that 5-minute walk, something happened. This was a walk he made a few times. He'd been in the area a couple of months at this stage. It wasn't like he would have gotten lost or anything like that. The police have no lead.
Hey, sorry, there was a cut there. I had to. Dude, my eyes, they're really bothering me as of late. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if I should get them looked at, but they're making it hard to do videos like these, long videos like these, because they just get tired and bothersome.
Police, they're still looking into his case to this day, and they have absolutely diddly squat. But there's one creepy incident, which somebody reported the same night he disappeared. A resident who lived about 20 minutes away from the house party Ryan had been attending was woken up in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. when Ryan would have been walking home. They were woken up because they heard somebody shouting outside, "Get in the car." That was it. What's weird is that this house was 20 minutes away when Ryan lived 5 minutes away. So what if this has anything to do with Ryan? What he was doing in that part of town is even stranger. Asha Creamer. Next on our disturbing disappearances, we have 26-year-old Australian woman, Asha Creamer. She had been in the USA, living with her boyfriend in Albion, Northern California. And in September of 2015, she'd been going through a mental health crisis, like pretty severely. She hadn't been able to sleep for 5 days, she was shouting randomly, she was hallucinating. It was very scary stuff, and Asha had no prior history of mental health difficulties at all. It just came upon her one day and it never left. She was hospitalized. Or rather, they attempted to hospitalize her. She actually resisted so fiercely, she just left without being treated. The doctors let her go with her boyfriend and with one...
Oh yeah, smart hospital. Let's give major props to this hospital. This girl comes in with serious mental health issues, complete problems, gotta scream and lose their mind, be paranoid. She starts to fight a little bit, like, well, you can leave, screw that, we're not treating you. Let yourself, you can suffer then. Like, good job, hospital.
One of Ash's childhood friends from Australia who was over visiting, and they were obviously very, very, very worried for Asha. So the three of them, they left the hospital, they were driving home, and they decided to stop in for breakfast along the way. 3 of them were in there munching away, and then Asha's friend, the one from Australia, she says, oh, just gotta use the bathroom, be right back. She gets up off the table, she goes to use the bathroom. Then, a couple of seconds later, Asha says, oh, I'm gonna use the bathroom too. Follows her. Okay, the boyfriend was then alone at the table. Then Asha's friend comes back, and the boyfriend says, oh, hey, Asha, just followed you in. No, she didn't. She's never been seen since. She likely walked out of the restaurant, used the bathroom as an excuse, but she was completely barefoot, no money, no wallet, no nothing. Her jacket was later found along the road, with no sign of Asha. Julie Mott. The next one is really strange and really weird because the person who actually vanished wasn't alive. In 2015, 25-year-old Texan Julie Mott passed away from cystic fibrosis. It was extremely sad, and her memorial actually took place on the day she was due to turn 26 years old. Her body was laid out, extremely upsetting for her friends and family, and after the ceremony her body was wheeled away and she was going to be cremated the following morning. So then the following morning an employee opened the place up, walked in and saw her casket. Empty. The hinges had been busted off the casket and her body was gone. But what was even weirder, I'm not sure if it's actually possible to even be weirder than that, was that nobody had been in the building since the previous early evening. They closed up shop at like 4:30 p.m. Nobody had been in there until the employee came in the following morning. The alarms hadn't gone off in the building and there was no sign of forced entry. I don't know how that's possible, but somebody figured that out and managed to take a body out of the place with them, and her body has never been found.
Why would someone steal a body?
Unwilling to discuss last week's baffling disappearance of Julie Mott's body hours before it was to be cremated, a psychiatrist did speak generally about why someone would want to steal a corpse.
Individuals have stolen back the body of someone who was very close to them to keep them near to them because they couldn't bear that loss.
Police think her ex-boyfriend was behind it. He was lingering by the casket when everybody had left. He harassed the family. It seems he had been obsessed with her.
A person of interest in Mott's disappearance, although Wilburn says he left and never went back on the property.
There had been times that I would just drive by the funeral home. We did have a really special relationship.
Still too...
Have you ever just followed him around? He would know where it is. You would have to search, because you follow him around, see if he goes somewhere else, because if he still has the body, right, like he's going to, you could just need to watch him and he'll reveal it to you.
To this day, where her body is, who did what with it, no one knows. Now we move on to tier 4, and these are all extremely creepy but kind of murdering. Jamie Fraley. See, in 2008, 22-year-old Jamie Fraley was very, very ill with a stomach flu. She had been to the hospital 3 times in 24 hours. Once the initial visit, the second time she was there in the waiting room for hours and she just gave up after a doctor didn't see her. But it had been so bad she decided she needed to go back to the hospital once again. Now Jamie did not drive, so she was waiting on a ride and on the phone to a friend at the time. She ended the call to that friend with, "I have to go, my ride is here, he is here." Who that he is a mystery. Jamie never made it to the hospital. She has never been seen again. Her family went to check on her the next day at her North Carolina apartment. It was locked. She hadn't returned. The police began an investigation, the FBI got involved, but nothing. To this day, she has never been found, and who took her to the hospital remains a mystery. Maybe. Soon, suspicion fell on Ricky Simmons Sr., who was her fiancé's father. And her fiancé's father, he actually lived in the same building as Jamie. Her fiancé, by the way, was in prison at the time. People became very suspicious of her soon-to-be father-in-law. He also had a record. About 20 years before, he had been imprisoned for strangling his girlfriend to death.
How did a man who strangled a woman to death get out of prison? How?
Police were heavy into Ricky Simmons Sr. until, get this, Ricky Simmons Sr. died in the most unusual of ways. 2 months after Jamie vanished, a former girlfriend of Ricky's, who had filed an order of protection against him because he was no good, she was in her car one day. She noticed a weird smell coming from her car. She was thinking, what the heck, there was a rat dying here or something. So she got out and she popped the trunk of the car. And there she saw lying Ricky Simmons Sr., dead. She freaked out, as you can imagine, called the cops. The police theorized that a week before, he had stolen a set of her car keys, had let himself into her car trunk, and was hiding there waiting to ambush her. But that weekend just happened to be particularly hot. So while he was hiding in her car trunk, he died of heat stroke. And what happened to Jamie Fraley likely died with him. Georgina Garsala.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Streepy laughed, but the thought of a man's ambush completely backfiring is hilarious. So he went with the goal to attack her, put himself in the trunk ready to attack her, and then because she didn't really go anywhere, he died of heat stroke. Oh, what a backfire.
In 2018, Georgina Garsala, 30 years of age, disappeared in the town of Worthing, England. Now, she was a very smart person, high achiever, but she had struggled with mental health issues and with addiction. She was living with her mother at the time, and she left her mom's house at around 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, March 7th, 2018. She had some problems with her phone, so she was going to go into town and see if she could get that fixed. Then she was going to go to a job center to apply about work, and after that, then in the afternoon, she was to meet her dad. She made it to a food and wine shop to ask about her phone, but the guy in there told her, go to a phone store, but she did not make it anywhere after that. Her phone was last used at around 3 p.m. She wasn't reported for a few days due to her kind of doing a vanishing act wasn't exactly unusual for Georgina, but when the police began looking into it, they theorized maybe she harmed herself somehow, that she had ran away, which seemed very unlikely, or that she had been abducted and murdered. Option 3 was seen as most likely. She wouldn't run away anywhere. She had kids that she adored. And on that last day when she was seen, she was with some unidentified people. And in fact, 2 men were later arrested on suspicion of her murder, but were released without being properly charged. What people think was that it was linked to drugs or sex trafficking, and she will never be found. Anything is absolutely possible. So now let's get on to tier 5, and let's begin with some creepy disappearances in the woods. And we can begin with the very strange and baffling disappearance of a YouTuber, a guy he was an outdoor survivalist guy.
Oh, I know this guy. I know exactly where he's going with this one. It's the one that's on the thumbnail, because it's the most weirdest one, and it leaves you so many questions and curiosities.
Finn Creaney. Finn Creaney. Finn was a Highlander survivalist. He made a number of videos on YouTube showing him living out in the remotest of Scottish Highlands.
Well, I've arrived. Where have you arrived, Finn? I've arrived at beautiful Loch Lass. And why? Why have you come here, Finn? Well, tonight I'm going to try and sleep way up there. Quite high, as far as you can go up to the very tip of the forest where I'm going to reside tonight.
He was a real Bear Grylls type, very good at it. He knew his stuff, he knew how to live out there.
Hey, I'm Finn, and welcome to the Wildcat Way. Today, we're doing the Survival Challenge Bronze, and we're way up here on location at the Cairngorm Mountains in Aviemore.
Right, I've arrived at dinner time. I'm always in time for dinner.
But one day he went out into that wilderness and he never came back. And he had a lot of reasons to come back.
I'm gonna spend some time.
So this wasn't the guy I thought it was. There is one other one in the wood that will come when it comes to a YouTuber going missing.
Going into this, getting some shreds so that when I kindle a flame, the shreds will catch. They'll be drier, they'll catch easier, and we'll hopefully get more luck with the fire.
He was last seen at 12:15 p.m. on Friday, March 25th, 2022, dropped off at Loch Naver, a lake in the very far north of Scotland. He was going to go hiking there. It was a warm weekend, unseasonably so. He went off into the wilds very often by himself, and this was thought to be no different.
We have nailed all of our elements today. January, Scotland winter camp. I've had a blast, and I'll see you again next time.
He was dropped off on the Friday. He was due to be home on the Sunday, but he never made it. Extensive searches never found any trace of where he had been, where he could have gone. Now, this place was so remote, there was no phone signal there, so his phone couldn't be tracked. They just checking the approximate location of where he could have been and what could have happened to him. He just vanished. The search lasted for a month, no signs. Now, Finn never seemed to be going through any kind of mental health struggles, like, you might be kind of like thinking that. His wife had just launched a very successful business. He was really, really proud of her. They had just had their first child, and she was actually pregnant with their second child. To this day, appeals are still sent out asking for help with finding Finn Creaney, but nothing. He just disappeared into the Scottish Highlands. Ben McDaniel. Now we have Ben McDaniel, and if you're feeling claustrophobic, you won't like this one at all, because I don't really like it that much either. This one makes me feel unwell. It scares the heck out of me. Ben McDaniel was 30 years old, and he was last seen going for a dive in an underwater cave. He never returned. He was mad into scuba diving. He was very good at it. He was very trained in it. And see, when his marriage ended, his construction business failed, and his brother died. Like, that all happened in a very short amount of time for Ben McDaniel. It's like one after the other, like, oh man. See, after that happened, he said, you know what, I'm taking some time. He went down to his parents' beach house in Florida and said, you know what, I'm taking some time off life. But he loved scuba diving, specifically cave diving. He was even thinking about starting up his own diving business, so he would often go to Vortex Spring, about an hour from his parents' house. On August 18th, 2010, he went to Vortex Spring. He actually went cave diving in Vortex Spring twice that day. It was on the second dive at 7:30 p.m. He went down, and he never came back up again. Police were called when folk from a nearby dive store saw his car still parked near the cave, and they realized he hadn't come back. He likely got trapped, turned around, stuck in that cave there, and he never made it out. Some of the parts of that underwater diving cave, they're only like 10 inches, 25 centimeters across. Like, to get through, you have to take off your tank and then like contort your real cost. No. Other cave divers went in there to look for him, but they never found anything. A reward of 30 grand was offered to anyone who could find him, but that offer was actually removed in case anybody else died in that dark cave.
Yes, he was the one that they did a search. They were like, hey, we'll put 30,000 if you can go find them. And then someone was just like, take that down. We're going to have random people who don't know how to scuba dive going down there and dying. Take that goddamn reward down. And then they did it.
Now this sign is up just outside that underwater cave. Beside is a gate, and you can only get into the cave if you show your diving qualifications to a nearby diver's store to hold the key. And finally, in Tier 5 is something weird, because it's not a missing person, it's a place. Mount Nyangani. Mount Nyangani lies in eastern Zimbabwe, their highest mountain, and it is a history of swallowing people up, never to be seen again. Now, in local tradition, it's a place of spirituality, a place where like weird things happen, inhabited by like, mysterious beings and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like, the Bermuda Triangle in its sort of effect, it's like electronic devices don't work there, compasses reportedly don't work there, there's like this fog which, suddenly comes in and you get absolutely lost and trapped in. Some people said, they've said that the fog follows you as you walk. Numerous people have disappeared without a trace there, and it's said if you don't get permission from the local elders before making the trip, You ain't gonna make it at all. Some people wander off, they get captured by the fog and are never seen again. One of the weirdest stories is from the 1980s, when a government official went for a hike on the mountainside, and he got lost. People couldn't find him, there were searches, nothing. People were looking everywhere for him. When he was finally found, after being missing for 4 days, it was even weirder, because it was like he hadn't been missing for 4 days. It was like he'd been missing for 4 hours. He was not tired. He was not dehydrated. He was not hungry. In fact, when they said, "You've been missing for 4 days," he was like shocked. He couldn't believe it. The likely explanation for what actually happens on the mountain is, yeah, it's a place where really thick, heavy fog comes in very, very swiftly and you fall to your death. Or something like that, you get lost, you get trapped. There's a million different things. I mean, this is a big, huge mountain in Zimbabwe. There's a lot that can go wrong there, but I probably wouldn't want it. It's creepy. Now it's time for tier 6, and this is the really weird time. Lee Ochi. Lee Ochi was 13 years of age in 1992, and on August 27th of that year, she was home alone. Her mother was off to work that morning, and you know, she was 13, so she kind of like thought, you're old enough to be left alone now, even though Hurricane Andrew, was actually swiftly approaching their little quaint town in Mississippi. She wouldn't be alone though in a house for too long. That afternoon she was due to go to an open house at a school that she would now be attending, and her grandmother was supposed to take her there. So her mom left that morning, regular old morning, and about an hour later, which is approximately 9 a.m., she called back to the house, to Lee, because to talk about, you know, the storm that was swiftly approaching the town. Lee did not answer the phone. So her mother then, Vicky was her name, she, you know, became worried. Again, first time leaving her in the house by herself, so she left work. You know, the home was only like 2 kilometers, about 1.5 miles down the road, so she just wanted to go and check at her. So she arrived there. She saw the garage door was open and the lights were on. She then started walking into the house, and she saw blood smeared along the walls. Blood was pooling in Lee's room, in the carpet, and Lee was nowhere to be found. Police were called immediately. Blood was found in the bathroom, like someone had tried to clean up, and some of Lee's clothing was missing, including a sleeping bag, and Lee's bloody nightgown was found in the clothing hamper.
It gives us a feeling that there was a act of violence there. That's all we know right now.
Now I know you're probably thinking, well, Lee's father, he lived in Virginia. He was in the military and he was based there. And Lee did have a stepfather who, there was some kind of rumors that he was abusive towards Lee, and you know, Vicky and the stepfather had split up. But both of them were ruled out pretty swiftly in the investigation.
Please go out and search your property, have your neighbors and friends go search their property so that we can find my daughter.
Lee, if you're out there and you can see this, please contact us. No matter what, just please let us know if you're all right.
Searches were done everywhere around the small town of Tupelo, in the woods, and nothing was found. The hurricane would later be downgraded to a storm, but it was still very heavy rain that washed away anything which could have been there to indicate what had happened to her. Then, 13 days after she disappeared, a package was sent to Lee's home, addressed to her stepfather, weirdly enough, and inside the package were Lee's glasses. Police checked all over the package to see who had sent this. The same person who abducted Lee, right, but there's no fingerprints, no DNA, and the package has been sent from a town about 30 miles down the road. There were rumors about Vicky, Lee's mother, and she failed 3 separate lie detector tests, but still to this day denies doing anything before she left home for work. And there was a lot of finger pointing in town, like it must have been somebody Lee knew, somebody, you know, Lee, home alone, would have opened the door to and let in. Like the local Sunday school teacher, who did in fact later abduct another girl and sexually assaulted her. This guy, Oscar Kearns, allegedly took an interest in Lee. Oscar did 4 years for abducting the other girl, and in 1999 kidnapped a married couple and sexually assaulted the wife. He refused to speak to the authorities about Lee, and then he died in 2021. And what happened to Lee? Nobody knows. Dalen Pua. In February 2015, 18-year-old Dalen Moki Pua was going hiking in Hawaii. He was from the Big Island and was visiting his grandparents on Oahu. And he had planned to hike the Stairway to Heaven, which is the Haiku Stairs, is what they're called. Now, it's banned. You're not allowed to do that hike anymore. It's not open to the public, and it was banned at the time. But you know, Dalen Moki was an adventurous guy, right? And despite his grandmother warning him, don't do it, he still was like, I gotta do it. He got on a bus going in that direction.
If it's illegal, or at least against the rules to go there, don't post that you're going there. That's gonna cause problems.
And he was never seen again. Now what makes the story really creepy is that we know he got there because he was sending pictures. He began sending his friends pictures he was taking while he was actually on that hike. Then he stopped around 11 a.m. Quite after that, nobody knows what happened. But in the images he did send, well, this was one of them. It appears there was someone else on that same trail. That banned trail that they shouldn't be on that very day. You gotta wonder if Dalen even seen this person was there. Did he notice in the picture they were there? Who that person was remains a mystery. Then 3 days after he vanished, 2 hikers who were again in that area, not on the trail, but in the very area, same area, they heard somebody shouting for help in the distance. The search went into looking for that. That was never found.
We have gone over an extensive area with Air One doing its search several times over the past 2 days. So now we're going into the more high probable areas if he was in trouble.
The last cues of his whereabouts came 4 days ago. Pua posted 4 scenic shots to social media at around 11 Thursday morning. Cell phone records indicate the last activity on his phone at about 3:30 in the afternoon. There's been nothing since.
A massive search went on. Helicopters, drones, you name it. But nothing of Dalen's has ever been found. Likely he fell and tragically passed away somewhere. It's very dense, so searchers may have been right on top of him, but never found him. He could have been right there at their feet the whole time. Mayumi Arashi. In 1994, 26-year-old Mayumi Arashi, she had had 1 daughter and another was on the way. Now, Mayumi had a difficult labor the first time around, so with another on the way, she went back to her family home in Tokyo, so she could have the help and support she needed, with her parents and her older sister Yoko there too. Her husband stayed in their home. So she went to give birth, it was all good. Her older sister Yoko actually worked in the hospital, so that went swimmingly. That was until Mayumi disappeared, of course. On September 2nd, 1994, she told her family she was going to meet a female classmate that evening, and she never returned. Her family, they soon became extremely worried that she wasn't coming home. They contacted that female classmate who said, "No, I haven't seen Mayumi in years. We never agreed to meet up." Mayumi Arashi was reported missing, and the search began, but no sign has ever been found. Weirdly, shortly after she disappeared, a man, identified as Mr. A, repeatedly kept calling the Arashi home, asking for Mayumi, asking about her condition. Later, a note was found in Mayumi's wardrobe, which said, "I betrayed my husband. I am dating Mr. A, but I was betrayed by Mr. A. This may be my betrayal of my husband. Punish me. I'm very sorry, everyone." Mr. A was eventually tracked down. It seemed like he had no clue what actually happened to Mayumi, but he did say, "If Mayumi is really dead, then I'm going to jail." Then, years later, I'm talking years later, in 2011, a Japanese TV show was doing a special about Mayumi's disappearance, and they went to interview her family. They went to interview her dad. And while they were interviewing Mayumi's father, viewers noticed this note in the background. It reads, "Don't believe what Yoko says." So likely somebody knows a hell of a lot more about Mayumi than what they're saying. But who put up that note? We don't know. And finally, tier 7, which is the really disturbing tier. Kenny Veach. This first one I want to mention is something I actually covered in the early days of that chapter. It's one that I covered, and it's always been really freaked me out ever since I've covered it, and that's the disappearance of Kenny Veach.
This is who I'm thinking of. Kenny Veach is the YouTuber I'm thinking of, not... My bad. He's the one. Kenny!
Well, here I am on my hike up here in the mountains north of Las Vegas. This is a canyon I just walked up in. Now you can't tell, but my truck is way out there by the mountains at the very, very end of this valley. It's kind of like a big canyon. On the other side of these mountains, I'll show you in a second, is the bombing range, the Nellis Air Force bombing range. They do a lot of practice stuff out there. This is an old mine, and I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before, and something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday. And I talked to some people on YouTube, and I told them, hey, I'm coming out here, you know, because they kind of called my hand on it. So I don't know if there's going to be anything to it, but it might be interesting. It's shaped like a big M. It's a big cave that looks just like a gigantic M, and it's about as tall as I am and kind of narrow. And
Kenny Beach went online as Snake Bit McGee. He lived in Las Vegas and he hiked in the desert all the time. And it was this video which set things off in motion. The M Cave, the mysterious M Cave, which seemingly scared 7 shades of shite out of Kenny Beach. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. The entrance to the cave was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always enter every cave I find, but as I began to enter this particular cave, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me. I have been in more caves than I can count. I play with rattlesnakes for fun, but this one particular cave was beyond anything I had ever encountered. Someday I will go back, and I will bring a weapon with me. However, R. Kenny went back many times to try and find the M Cave, but never could never find it, kept on trying to find it. Whether it was related to something really creepy, or, you know, conspiracy theories started coming out that it was like Area 51 or interdimensional or aliens or something really, really weird. Whatever it was scary, or at least it scared the shit out of him. One day though, he went out to find it and he never returned. On April 10th, 2014, Kenny ventured forth for the last time. He said he was going overnight, be back soon. Mojave, here he comes. After that was raid.
I have a feeling, if it, let's say it did have something to do with Area 51 or something like that, whatever cave he found, and if he found that M cave, he went in it, and whoever was in it killed his ass. Radio silence. These searches began for him, and 12 days after he ventured forth, his cell phone was found in the rocks of the desert, in the hills and the rocks of Mojave. His cell phone was actually found right outside an old vertical mine shaft. So they were like, did he go down there? Did he fall in? Didn't seem like it. They couldn't find any trace of him there at all. But what could have happened to him? I mean, hey, going out into Mojave, it's no fun. But Kenny was a very experienced, avid hiker, outdoorsman, all that sort of stuff. So why he would just abandon his phone, why he couldn't get help if something did happen to him, and what was the deal with the M Cave?
Okay, so I'm back. I came down one mountain, I came over a ridge, and I dropped down inside this canyon. Now that's actually behind me. I'm actually going. There's big mountains over there. There's a few caves over there, but that's not where I found it. Out that direction is the direction I'm heading. Down here, I'll walk a little bit. I haven't come to the area where the cave is. So it's along here somewhere.
Later, a woman named Sherian, claiming to be his girlfriend, commented saying he would never be found. Okay, and to just go and enjoy your lives. Don't bother looking for Kenny. Which is weird. She's pretty confident he's no longer with the living, that he likely took his own. But it's still, the weirdness lives on. She would say he had been battling depression and all that sort of stuff. She would say it, and she was saying this years later. I mean, I don't know if her family would agree with that, but who knows. But a lot of others think he did find the cave, and he's never coming back. I mean, it's the desert, the heat, the mines, a million different things, but mostly it's creepy. Did he find the cave in Area 51? Aliens? Or did he simply just go out there, break a leg, get bitten by a snake like his namesake, and his bones are out there getting bleached under the hot sun? Who knows? That's a really weird one, and it always stuck with me. Terrence Woods. On October 5th, 2018, 27-year-old Terrence Woods Jr. vanished in the Idaho woods. His story is extremely nuts. Again, it's one that's really, really stuck with me, which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, because there's all these disappearances that I've just never been able to get out of my head. I actually talked about his disappearance on that chapter podcast before, but It's crazy. Terrence Woods worked in TV production and got a job as a production assistant for the Discovery series Gold Rush, Dave Turin's Lost Mine. So Terrence and a whole host of people were out there, in the middle of the woods, filming at Penman Mine, an abandoned gold mine. Things had been going well, but then, on the morning of October 5th, 2018, Terrence texted his dad saying he was going to be home early, which was unusual, because the shoot was due to last for a good couple more weeks, and, Terrence seemed to enjoy his job. He was very, very good at it, so that was kind of strange, why are you coming home early? But he never said. Then, later on the same day in the evening, on this set in the middle of the woods, surrounded by staff and lighting equipment and TV equipment and whatever, he suddenly was standing there. He dropped his radio and he sprinted into the woods. He sprinted off the set, he sprinted down this very steep cliff and then into the woods, never to be seen again. People said he was running like he was running for his life. Others actually tried to follow him to see what was going on, but they couldn't keep up with him in this terrain. How he managed to do this was insane. How he managed to do it without falling, breaking a leg was crazy. The search for him lasted 6 days. Helicopters, dogs, you name it, and nothing. He vanished. During the investigation, some people say he had been going through some mental health stuff at the time, and that the production company was known as extremely toxic. But others would say no, he never had no history at all of mental health issues whatsoever. He was very good at his job. He always excelled in his job, and he was the type of person who would, even if the job was shit and he didn't get on with people, he would still stick it out. He would stick it out to the end. Obviously this was different because he had texted his dad saying he was going to be coming home early, but I mean, to just drop everything and take off into the woods is absolutely creepy and bizarre. Connie, John.
Yeah, I know what y'all thinking. A third cut, really? Yes, my eyes really bother me, so I tried to just try make it so my eyes don't hurt when filming.
Johnson. And finally, here's one more, because the very same day Terrence Woods vanished, another woman disappeared not too far away.
Really?
76-year-old Connie Johnson was camping near Big Fog Mountains. She was there with her dog Ace and a couple of other hunters. She was staying off at the camp cooking, there with her dog, while the 2 other hunters she was with were going to go off into the woods, and they'd be returning then the following day. So then, following day, that morning, one of the hunters, and they have a radio to communicate with Connie back at camp. On the radio he gets a call, from Connie, but the signal is so weak he can't really make out what she's saying. It's very garbled. So they head back to make sure everything's okay. They get back to the camp, and it's deserted. Their stuff is all still there. The camp is exactly like they left it, only there is no sign of Connie. There is no sign of the dog Ace. Connie was an experienced outdoors woman. She had been a park ranger before retiring, and then she just suddenly disappeared. Searches were done, infrared, helicopters, and nothing. What was she trying to say on the radio? Was she called for it?
Terrence Woods and Connie Johnson, both missing since Friday. Now these cases are having many questions unanswered, and so this just doesn't add up.
1 month later, the dog Ace shows up, but that was it. Connie has never been found. Thank you so much for...
But what's on a comment? Apparently when they tried to get the dog to go back in to find Connie, thinking to leave back, it just refused to go into the woods again. It refused to go in there. So my guess is whatever got her was something that scared that dog to such a degree it will not go back into that woods. Which is terrifying to think. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm sorry for all the cuts. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.